welcome. Over the Top Podcast. It's your boy Big Hank here with the Over the Top Podcast crew. Let's start with the Missus Miss Toya. How you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good.
What's going on with you?
I want to thank you all for coming out and celebrating my birthday with me. You had an awesome time. I appreciate you, brothers. I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
We had a blast. Tell everybody where they can find Ash Toya. We all want to make sure you
You
get your
can
time.
find Ash Toya on TikTok, and that's TOIA. A lot of people are sending me DMs. You can send me an email at asktoya74. That's TOIA at gmail.com. Send all your emails to that, and I will do my best. Y'all got to be patient. I got a lot going on. I will do my best to get to y'all.
Hey, y'all got to send her a real good one so she can bring it back on over the top so we can play around with it a little bit. So, so get something that kind of stumpy, guys. Playmaker G, what's the deal, baby?
Hey man, I'm like Tony the Tiger. I'm great.
I got you. Is that your slogan? I don't know. We going forward. Tony the
Put it
Tiger.
on a t-shirt.
For copyright infringements, I can't use that.
Yeah.
So edit that out.
Gotcha. Now you fine. We keep it moving. Big Run, what's the deal, RJ?
Hey man, chilling. How you doing?
Good, bro. How things going your way?
Oh man, I'm doing excellent. No complaints.
Okay, cool. And last but not least, we got the young fella Q. What's going on with that, buddy?
And all I'm saying is Trump wanted to defund the police. If this ain't the biggest Uno reverse I ever seen in my life of paying attention to politics.
Well, you learned a valuable lesson today, sir. One thing about Trump gonna go where the money's at. He go where the money's and the donors at. So I mean, if the money in defunding the police, that's what he gonna do. If the money in funding the police, well, that's what he gonna do.
You know what? It's scary.
You know he ain't doing this for the money.
It's scary how irresponsible he is.
Oh, isn't it?
It truly like to have like
literally
to have that type of platform and to be that irresponsible relative to the things that you speak on. It's amazing because people will respond at a whim to how he addresses things. That's scary, man.
He got people drinking He got people drinking Clorox, man. He got grown adults. Went to the store.
For years,
you know what? Could I say? I don't
defund the police. Now, saying,
go ahead, Keith.
Well, I was saying for years, you saying, nah, we are back in the blue. We are not defunding the police. The police are our friends. Now he in the hot seat, ready to go wait for however many years he got left on the planet in the first place. He said, you know what? Nah, they don't need him. They don't need no more money.
Anything to serve his best interest, sir.
You're gonna say, yeah, we need to defund the police. Hold on. I remember you had a Blue Lives Matter flag on last week. Now all of a sudden, it's take away money from them. I see the hypocrisy.
The case is a state case, though. That's the one thing that's really federal. They would have probably been able to kill it. But what's really scary, man, honestly, all the social and emotional gains that we made during the 80s and the 90s into the 2000s have been wiped away in a matter of maybe about 5 or 6 years. And the stability that was America, and we started talking about Obama and the post-racial America. We're in a different space right now. Yeah, process that. That's
definitely in a different space.
If you look at the centering of those two gentlemen, and then also you start to process other things where state legislators are talking openly about hanging people again, bringing back firing squads,
lynching,
slavery.
No, I
We
mean,
have
we
to
laugh.
say
We're laughing, but it is real. Like the manifestation of the things that we're seeing right now are the things that were spoken of in our childhood. They used to be like boogeyman stories.
Mhm.
Yes. And now this stuff is manifest and it's becoming real.
But I remember me and Gary used to talk about this all the time, maybe a couple of years ago. And I think the first ones was the affirmative action going. No, when the abortion rights went to the states. And I remember him having that conversation. Gary made a conversation. He was like, "Oh boy, they's about to get a little fishy," because one thing we started to vote in the national election, president election, as far as our communities, but we still missed the state elections. What's going on now? We keep missing the state elections. We're gonna mess around. And me and Ron, we left with you this weekend and said we're gonna mess around and drive ourselves from freedom state to slavery if we ain't careful. Go to and we just try to go to the beach for a weekend. Don't mess around and get to the beach, you can't get back home. We gotta start paying attention, ladies and gentlemen, to voting in our regular elections. But okay, another story, another time. We gonna switch gears early. What we want to talk about, guys, and what everybody been talking about is this gun control. Gun control, school shootings. Do you know the statistics? Do you know the number one killer for children under 18 years old is gun violence? Let that sink in, ladies and gentlemen. The number one killer is not serious. It's not no medical issue. It's not no, cancer, something that happens to you. It's not an illness. The number one killer for our teens to the point of 18 years old is gun violence. Look at these stats. Our archive records said 9,998 deaths were related to gun violence, and that's in 2022. In 2022, the gun violence archives recorded 647 mass shootings and 44,287 total deaths from gun violence. This year alone, it's been around 146 mass shootings this year alone. Just today, and we don't have all the information. Well, I don't have all the information. There was a shooting in Kentucky at a bank. Just today. But that's kind of zeroing in on the school shootings because we can't. One of the best way to eat an elephant is one piece at a time. So we can't go massive. They kind of break it down a little bit to the school shooters. So some schools are now some schools are now allowing teachers to take guns inside the classrooms as a means to increase school safety, particularly when it comes to stopping school shootings. Now, this move has sparked a lot of controversy nationwide, as many opponents question whether arming teachers with guns will make the school safer. What do you guys think? G, I'm gonna go with you, G. We are first we are probably the number one arms dealers in this world, and gun control is being actually less restrictive as we go. What is this country infatuation with guns?
So I'll go ahead and give you some of the stats you were kind of talking about. Americans make up 4% of the world population, but account for 46% of the total gun stocks in the world. So 857 million firearms. So that means the U.S. civilians have 393 million guns. So that just kind of put that in perspective, how we do against other nations. If you take the top 25 countries after the U.S. and combine that number, we still have more guns than our civilians still have more guns. Just other quick stats before I get into my response. The American civilians have 100 times more firearms than the U.S. military. And our civilians have 400 times more guns than law enforcement. So that's a lot of guns that our civilians have, if that kind of just put things in perspective. So one of the things I like to do is always like to try to follow the money, because sometimes the money will kind of give you some insight to things. So it was reported that 16.4 million in gun sales was done in 2022. So that's 16.4 million. And that's actually down 18.5 million from 2001 and 21 million from 2020. And the reason why the gun sales spiked in 2020 was because the election, if you recall, COVID, and also we really had all of the unarmed Black men come into the focus. So I kind of say all that to kind of lead into some more, to kind of set the base for my response. Excuse me. So the gun owners say that the number one reason why they have guns is to protect themselves. So you have to ask yourself, why does everybody feel that they need to be protected? I mean, what's going on now that everybody feels like they have to have so many guns? And I did some research, and I came across this this professor called Nick Buttrich, and he basically was saying that after the Civil War, when the South was in disarray and people were fearful, there was a lot of killings because the government was not in place, the police were not in place, and all of that kind of stuff. That's when people start taking in more and more guns and building up their arsenal. So this has been something that has been kind of following since that time. And if you follow the advertisements of like your NRA, they put the focus on protecting your home, and everything is about protection, protection, protection. So it's kind of a fear factor in which people feel safe by having guns. So to answer your question, why is everyone so infatuated by guns? One, you have to take in the imagery that you see. You see a lot of imagery in starting back from the Westerns, the infatuation with the mob and gangsters, all these different type of imagery, plus people feeling like they need to be able to protect their homes, has kind of led us to where we are right now.
Okay, Tor, I'm gonna go with you, and that's you got some very interesting stats then, G. That definitely hit it on the head. But why are schools, Toya? Where do we get to the point in society where we don't feel safe even sending our kids to school or some other school teachers? Why are schools becoming that target? What do you think schools becoming that target?
Well, when I was doing my research, I found out that school shootings is not something new, of course. The first school shooting was in 1794, actually, when our country was being created. It was the Pontiac Massacre. It was 13 kids and only three survived. And so that it's been an issue for a long time, but now it's more prevalent. So there's three leading causes that they say of school shootings. Of course, one being bullying. 87% of school shootings is because of bullying. Most school shootings claim or left evidence behind indicating that they were victims of some sort, long-term bullying. Psychotic drugs is another reason. If you have kids that aren't taking their meds, or people who aren't taking their meds. This recent shooting was a 28-year-old man who actually went to the school. So they say 12% are those who are not on their meds. And then you just have 10% that displayed medication non-compliance, which means they just failed and didn't want to. So you have those three causes, but I think that bullying factor, even if it's somebody who's already graduated from the school, comes back, or somebody who's just not happy with life. And the fact that it's just easy to get a gun. We were having a conversation Saturday night about Zoe saying she wanted to write a note to the principal because, she's in middle school now, so she has to go through a metal detector. And she says it's time consuming and we shouldn't have to do this. And I'm explaining to her, you have to do that. But one of the teachers that was at dinner with us said that it really doesn't even matter about the metal detectors because these kids find ways about it. And when she broke it down, she was like, well, when they come in, they put their book bag up on the thing, they take their notebooks out. The notebooks have metal in them, so you can slide a gun in that notebook. It's going to go off, or it goes around the metal detector because it already has the metal in it. So it's going to make the metal detector go off. These kids know ways to get things into the school without being detected. And so whereas the metal detectors are supposed to make you safer, it doesn't necessarily make you safer, but it's just the access that you have to just go out and get a gun anywhere. Now you don't even need a permit or anything in North Carolina. You could just go show your ID and buy a gun.
With no background checks or anything.
Nothing.
That is crazy.
And
Quinn, I'm gonna come to you. What's your, I mean, since the schools in such disarray, what's your thoughts with teachers having guns to protect themselves?
It shouldn't need to be the case. I believe the same people who are saying we'll give teachers guns to protect themselves are the same people who I'll say back the blue, meaning that they know that, subconsciously they're saying, hey, the police isn't enough. We need to arm up the teachers. Which I don't know about you, having a gun around children at all is not a good idea, especially if you have one for every classroom. Children, all it takes is one child to be off their meds and a teacher turning for 1 second, and now you don't arm a child with a deadly weapon with a bunch of other children who don't know what's going on. As for a way to stop it, I mean, I'm assuming at some point you're going to talk about ways to limit how many guns there are, because the fact that U.S. citizens has more guns than the police and the military is absurd.
Yeah, like what kind of country we living in, right?
And I'm pretty sure most people who have the guns are people have guns who are saying it's for protection, are the same people who will say the police are there to protect us. Well, if the police are there to protect you, then why do you need your gun? You already 100% believe you must think that police. You already think the police doesn't have a problem, but you feel you need a gun in case. No, you can't go both ways saying police protect us, but I'm going to protect myself too. You got to choose a hill. Choose a hill.
Yeah. RJ, I'm coming at you with this. As a mental health professional, what do you think are some of the leading factors of the large number of school shootings or gun violence?
Let's go back to the beginning. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you go through the Bill of Rights and you go through the amendments to the Constitution, First Amendment, right to free speech. Second is the what? Bear arms.
Bear arms.
So if you think about the core principle of what America represents in and of itself, I heard this said, and I knew Winston-Salem State was a different place when I heard it said by Reverend Mendez. Reverend Mendez says, America is built on violence. So the manifestation of violence is not, like you can't, dang, I hate to say this. You can't start off something with the premise of a bad thing or a bad principle and think that it will end good.
It's like we need to change the Constitution anyway. That thing's way outdated.
So if you really reflect on where we are as a country, effectively, the fact that we've lasted somewhere in the neighborhood of about 250, and I always seem like I'm at the end of something, man. I tell people all the time, I'm always at the end. Because this American empire is falling right now. Tupac said, America eats its babies. And that's essentially what they're doing. They're eating their babies and they're consuming each other. If you look at Congress, if you look at the Democrats and the Republicans, ideology is so far apart relative to what's supposed to be executed for the common interest of the country is at the core of it. And right now, we're weaker than we've ever been before, and we're ripe for the picking. And
Mm-hmm.
the
Go ahead, finish
citizen,
your thought.
huh?
Go ahead, finish your. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, finish your thought.
And the citizenry of this country is not necessarily effectively aware of why we're in this space, but it's because we afford things. Everything in America is for sale. Our safety's for sale. Our health is for sale. Our wellness is for sale. Our mental health is for sale. And as long as America has a price tag on it, and our children's health and safety is for sale, then we will, and when I say for sale, congressmen who get lifetime benefits from the time they join Congress are selling our safety to gun lobbyists. So if you effectively look at those aspects of things, America has always had a for sale sign. But now, I hate to steal this line from Malcolm X, his chickens is coming home to roost.
I was just thinking the same thing what you were just saying, Ron, with the chickens and kind of because it's ironic. And we're gonna jump on, and I'm gonna jump on another portion of it 1 second. But I want to get y'all want to get this part out. So we know it's a gun problem. The schools know it's a gun problem. The parents know, society know there's an issue. But what is the state saying? Just this week, this past week, the state of Tennessee, the state of Tennessee banded 3 Congress people for standing up against gun violence. Let me say that again. I don't know for the people in the back. I don't know people in the back heard me. The state of Tennessee done fired 3. Well, they fired 2. The other one didn't get fired. And I guess we need to address the elephant in that room. It was 2 black males and 1 white lady. She's an ally. She keeps her job. The other brother that got his job reinstated tonight. We don't know about the other one or the other couple. But the point is, the states feel like they don't care. Let's look at the states that's leading the school shootings. California, 161, so forth. Texas, 135. Florida, 90. Michigan, 70. Illinois, 80. Ohio, did they get the state of Ohio? No, it's Ohio, 66, 65. I do apologize. And we gave Kevin McCarthy, who is the Speaker of the House, saying weapons still not the issue. Well, what's the issue then, Kevin McCarthy? What's the issue?
Red states.
Huh?
What'd you say?
States.
You still broke. I still can hear you.
Say how many red states?
California ain't.
California's not. Florida is. Texas is. Michigan. Ohio isn't.
Detroit is the most democratic city. That's you got a little bit of gentrification taking place in Detroit.
Chicago, Illinois. Chicago, Illinois is a blue state.
Hey,
Florida and Texas. Florida and Texas.
But I'm about to say, go ahead, Ron. Go ahead.
I give y'all one little statement, though. I'm gonna tell you something. If you notice that those cities that you spoke to, and I'm looking at the agenda, that's the cities that you spoke to: Los Angeles, Detroit, Chicago. At one point in time, had the biggest populace, right?
Yeah.
Whenever you put a group of people into a setting, and it's a whole bunch of people up on top of each other, you're going to get levels of aggression and you're going to get violence. And what I task it as is, crimes are proximity crime. Like crime is proximity crime. Crime is directly correlated with who you're around, right? But I got another term I want to put on it. I should got daggone coin this. I call it mass psychosis. Mm-hmm. When you're around, like you see what happened to that gentleman in that clip that we were talking about on Instagram. Mm-hmm. That's something that would happen to my neighborhood. That's something that in my youth, I might would have did if you try to press me in front of somebody and talk crazy.
But that's something that happened around my block when I was growing up too.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, my block growing up too.
But if the camera's not there, he might don't make it home that night.
That
Right.
part.
That part.
You see what I'm saying?
And that's why the woman interjected, because she had already lost. When you're in a neighborhood like that and you can literally say, I've lost 5 sons, 5, not 1.
One, I got to go.
But 5.
One.
Yeah, that's
The
heavy.
gun violence, 5. That that's a statement in itself. And,
Yeah.
and it's not, it's a normalcy. It's not something that just, back in the day, everyone would be like, okay, no, it's normalized now.
Right.
It's normalized.
Gary,
Robert Harris, gotta go.
Yeah, G, I'm gonna go with you. Why is it so difficult for Congress to pass gun control? I know that irritates you, but why? Well, I'm like you get on your soapbox a little bit, but why is it so difficult?
Soapbox is annoying.
for Congress to kind of pass some laws?
Well, once again, I'm gonna throw out a couple of stats and then I'll give my opinion. So they did a survey, and 82% of Black Americans said that gun violence is a very, very big problem. 58% of Hispanics, said that it was a big problem. 39% of Caucasians said it's a big problem. So there you can see that there's a disparity between ethnic groups of how we view gun violence as being a problem. African Americans, 82, Hispanics, 58, Caucasians, 39. And then another poll that was taken in 2021, which says that 49% of adults believe that there would be fewer mass shootings if guns were not, if they had better gun laws. But you still have 42% that believe that gun laws would not have any impact on mass shootings. So I think that is the reason why Congress is struggling, because you still have a significant portion of the population that believes that restricting gun access or adding more gun laws is not the answer to this particular problem. So as long as you have multiple people thinking that it is a problem or is not a problem, or the gun or having more laws is the answer or is not the answer, you're just going to kind of go back in this circle. So I think the answer lies in the numbers. Everyone does not believe that putting restrictions on or more gun control is the answer. And a lot of people don't feel that gun violence is a major problem.
I think.
Go ahead, Tori. Go ahead.
I think when you just threw out those statistics, it reminds me of that scene in Boys in the Hood, where Furious is standing in Compton and he's saying, where are the gun stores? There's no gun stores in this neighborhood, but our neighborhood is flooded with guns. We don't own any property in South America, but our neighborhood is flooded with drugs and now disease. And so is that 58% of us and Hispanics that think that it is a problem is because, we all know in the 80s, they flooded our neighborhoods with guns, and there's a liquor store on every corner, and they flooded our neighborhoods with drugs. Because why? To kill us off. It's the legalist way to get rid of us. And so when we say that there's a problem, it doesn't matter, because there's no money in it. It's like cancer. There's no money in the cure.
Ain't no money in the cure.
It's a cure for the cold, but there's no money in the cure. There's no money in the laws. And this is a capitalistic society. So why would they change the laws? Like Ron said, they getting benefits from it. The NRA is spreading money everywhere. So why would we change the laws?
I'm gonna bring you back in the conversation. Go ahead, go. I will bring you in anyway. I will ask you what are your thoughts on that, and what are your thoughts on gun violence at your age. I know we're a little older. I know you're 20, so we look at guns a little differently. What are your thoughts, or what do you feel it could be do for your generation with the gun violence?
First, I was gonna say what's crazy is there is a way they can limit the amount of guns being sold and make more money off of it. If you limit the supply, you can raise the price of it. There's people there are people for better or for worse who will pay a ludicrous amount of money for a gun, even just for hunting. That we grew up around people who hunt for the sport.
Yes.
Those type of people will say, "Oh, this hunting rifle costs $1,000. Well, I can make that back in selling deer meat," and then they'll do that.
They even give guns to 6 and 7-year-olds to go hunting with in the woods. We start them early. They start them early up there in the woods. But I'm impressed with you, Quinn, with the economics, buddy. I'm impressed. If you short a supply, you raise the demand. I'm impressed, sir. You pay attention to class, my man. I'm impressed to see you down there. Hey, sometimes you'll get a man his flowers when you give a man his flowers. But man, check this out. We were talking about cities like Los Angeles, Detroit, Chicago, and granted, they got one of the highest gun violence rates in the city. But guess what, guys? Their school don't have a lot of school shootings in those areas. So how is it where we wonder how is it whereas our inner schools we have gun violence in the city, but we don't have school shooting violence in our city schools? Let me take a guess why. Probably because it looks like a prison when you walk in it.
That part. That's first.
You walk in with metal detectors. If you're a visitor, you got the resource officer gonna walk you to the office to find out who you with. First, he's gonna question you just like you go in somebody's house. Who you looking for? Where you at? Or you go to the office. I take you to the office. So and what?
And the doors are locked.
And the doors are locked.
You have to ring the doorbell to get in the door.
Yes. So I'm gonna read this clip. Quinn, I know I'm gonna get back in there. Since this is from the story, every morning, students arrive an hour to 30 minutes in their uniform before the bell to wait in line to pass through the metal detectors. Have their backpack searched and get patted down by security guards. Let me say that again. They had a backpack search and they get patted down like criminals by security guards. It's just not the students. There's every parent. Every parent, guess, even the postman walks through those metal detectors, get their photo taken, and is greeted by a security guard who escorts them to the main office, right by our deputy police officer's desk. So when we say, well, I'm going to Quinn. What's your thoughts on that, Quinn? I'm gonna go with you first. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, first, to the original first question, which was my generation with guns. The easy question that is, my generation doesn't fight anymore. That's the easy that one. It's not like they can learn, but they choose not to learn.
The lost fight of throwing hands, but we need more boxing academies in the art of throwing hands.
That's the funny part, because when someone takes a boxing lesson, the me thing is, okay, you can box, but I'll shoot you. That is people's mindsets. But as far as why you don't see a lot of shootings in our urban areas is well, one, because like I said, it's you're gonna have to Harriet Tubman your way under the front door just to get a gun into the school. But then then a lot of people in charge of the gangs around the area will say, hey, the schools and the children are off limits. They'll say, hey, nah, that's an elementary school right there. We don't do anything around elementary schools. They'll say, hey, don't do anything around that middle school. The high school, it gets a little iffy, but those elementary and middle schools, they say, nah, stay away from. Don't mess with the kids, because they all say, well, we stuck in here, but the kids are our future. So they'll say, nah, leave them alone. And then until they get to high school, then it's almost, well, you an adult now. But yeah, that's a lot. That's like reason why.
Right. Ron, why do you think there's such disparity between the two school systems? Whereas the inner school system is like prisons, but your suburban schools are more like country clubs. So why is there a disparity?
I'm touching that shit.
Oh, well, let's get Ron and you come right to Ron. Why is there a disparity in that, Ron?
It's strictly based on economics. And a conceptual basis of the precept of one has goods and services and will represent themselves in a certain manner, and one doesn't. It's a story of the haves and have-nots. But if any of you know about the DC law, and if you've ever watched Paid in Full, I went to a prep school, so it's about $2,300 to $2,500 to go to school when I went to school. One of the gentlemen at the time when DC was raging with crack, who was involved in the murdering of man, you've watched the movie Paid in Full, the guy, Mitch, but they called him something else in the movie, was killed by a DC resident. And that gentleman went to my high school.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so it's a college prep school. And you would think that dynamic wouldn't cross boundaries, or these kids wouldn't be, but it was like drugs and violence was everywhere throughout the city. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so the one thing that's really kind of interesting about that, the young man name was Gary, but they called him Big Head Gary.
I know I call Gary all the time too, Big Head Gary, the same guy.
Right. But if you look it up, the young man went to Carl. And the young man used to park his car in the parking lot in certain spaces he technically wasn't supposed to. And aspects of time, I didn't know. I didn't know who he was, and I didn't never necessarily have any run-ins with that particular person. But I was also around guys that were high-level drug dealers, and the environment is different. And the one thing about that is really cool, if you square, they're going to treat you like a square. But if you're in the game, they're going to treat you like you're in the game. So to really effectively answer the question, most of the schools, the economic demographics define how they treat the kids. I hate to say that. And that's the core issue. And goods and services are in certain schools and goods and services are not. My wife used to work at Northwestern Guilford, very rich community. Those cars in that parking lot was outstanding. Like you would sit down, kids come to school in Benzes, all different types of stuff. Then you come over to Page High School, which you still have a demographic of rich kids, but you also have a mixture of kids that come from the project. And it's been a lot of violence there, a lot of violence. So,
go ahead.
So I just think that, and I hate to drag on, but I just think the core issue more so than anything else is we deal with it demographically.
Yeah, I know we talk about the school shooting. We talk about the inner city with LA and Detroit, but I know when you always, and when I was first talking to you about this, so I said, is that really our issue? You say yes, because we're not just talking about the school. We talk about the school shooting, but we also forget about the gun violence in our neighborhood. Touch on that. What are some of the ways that, I know in the inner city schools they have is like prisons, police, so that's the deterrent. but touch on and Tori, I want you to kind of go behind the kind. I'm probably getting another perspective, but touch on how do we solve our inner city shootings amongst each other? Just like what Quinn said, they don't throw hands no more. I mean, I remember growing up, one of the most humbling experiences would be, you get your behind whipped, then the next day you still gotta go see that guy, and you're gonna leave him alone because you got your behind whipped from him. So that kind of humbles you in a way. Not to say I experienced that, but that kind of humbles you in a way, knowing that we live to fight another day, but I got to see this guy every day who just whipped on me. So that has a lasting effect. But Gary, let's go to you with that. What's your thoughts on what we can do as far as our inner city youth, as far as the crime going on every day?
This was a little bit different than we kind of talked about earlier. I'll still share my opinion on that. And I think Ron highlighted it pretty much with his response is the resources. Like you have the summertime coming up, and you have inner city kids who may not have different things to participate in the summer to occupy their time. So now you have people with a lot of time, and what is the saying that an idle mind is the devil's playground. So in these other communities, you have sports going on, you have just all these different type of activities or things for people to get involved in. But in some of our inner city neighborhoods, you don't have a lot of activities that these young men and women can participate in. So then they find themselves, entertaining themselves in the streets, and then one thing leads to another, and then they get around bad influences, and now you have situations in which you just had a kid that was basically bored trying to find something to do.
Yeah, that's crazy. Tori, piggyback on that. What's your thoughts on what can we do to curb some of the gun violence in our
Stop letting the white man's flush our neighborhoods with guns.
Well, now that's so too now.
But I want to go back real quick on the neighborhoods and the disparities. Like Quentin was saying, in our neighborhoods, school is the safest place. My best friend teaches I have two friends that one is in Baltimore, the city, as a social worker, and one is a principal in Upper Marlboro. And school is the safest place in those neighborhoods. It is where kids can go and feel safe. It's where they go and get some of the only meals they'll have throughout the day.
Yes.
And so, like you said, when you walk in, and even here in Charlotte now, since last year's school shooting in Florida, even when you walk into elementary schools now, you always have to ring the doorbell and they open the door for you, but you can't even go past that corridor. If your child is late, you sign right there in that corridor, and then they'll come out and open the door for the child after the parent has walked out. That is the safety that they have in elementary schools. In the middle schools and the high schools, of course, there's metal detectors in every school in this city, no matter what side of town it is on. So in Ballantyne, if y'all know Charlotte, there are metal detectors in RG-Cal, Providence, Butler, all those nice schools, all those, high-end areas. Where I live is a high-end area. So yes, there are metal detectors. They have to go through, and you have to have all this. When you come into the office, you have to have your driver's license, no matter if they know you or not. You have to have your driver's license, get a picture visitor thing put on it if you're having a meeting or something like that, or just volunteering. But in those neighborhoods where there's not a lot, the highest amount of school shootings are committed by white males. From the year 1982 to now, 73 white males have gone and shot up schools. And so the problem also has to deal with mental health and being able to obtain those weapons without a problem. and get into those places. This shooting that just happened in Nashville, he had a whole map and wrote out directions and has been and had several different types of weapons. And because he's a white male, why nobody's paying attention?
Ain't mental health, so yeah, that's intent.
Huh?
They pay
That
attention
ain't
because
mental health. Mental
No,
health.
I'm not saying it's mental health, but I'm saying,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
you're right. It's
don't
intent.
classify.
No, I'm not
Separate.
classifying all of it as mental health. I'm sorry.
Yeah, separate.
And it's
Like you
intent,
need to clearly
because he
define that.
wrote up
When,
everything that he was going to do and then walked in like it was nothing, because why? He's not a threat. He doesn't look like a threat.
That's
You
the
and I
that's the
look like
homegrown
threats.
terrorism that we have to deal
That
with.
part.
Is
And when they start realizing that white men are threats,
yeah.
things might change.
Because you think about it, if do you think if getting rid of, well, I guess if you get rid of all the guns, the gun violence would go down, but will violent activity cease? Because I'm bound to believe that it's not necessarily, it is the guns that's kill you, but it's the mental
it's
awareness of people.
technically, it's not the guns, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's the nature of the guns. If you like, people don't really talk about, like, when you start talking about certain weapons, right? That are semi-automatic or fire at a rapid rate of speed. One of the reasons why they call AK-47s toppers is because the bullets tumble.
Mm-hmm.
So I seen it in Banging in Little Rock. Hey, man, topper. But they tumble. So when they're going towards the target, you got a bullet maybe half of this size tumbling at you. So when it hit, and I seen this in the Banging in Little Rock, it cut a hole in the kid's arm, and the kid kiloed it. And when I seen that, I was like, God dang. But the psychology of it is something that was pretty interesting for me, because in Banging in Little Rock, man, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna debilitate for a second, so forgive me for saying it. This nigga said, man, I feel like I'm the hardest nigga in the world. I just can't be faded. And when he said that,
disclaimer, the views of the do not, the views of
but when he said, that's not reflective of me.
You find out I was true, but you true. That's fact.
But that's not reflective of me. But when he said that,
right,
I understood where he was coming from mentally. Cause I was like, God dang, yeah, man, I believe that. And it was a side note. Y'all said something earlier, and I just wanted to expound on that. I said, I told y'all I'm always late. When I got old enough to really fight with my hands, and I'm nice with my hands, like I'm really nice, like really nice with my hands, right? Y'all laughing, I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious.
We growing up, you better be nice with them paws and them lefts and right.
But they start shooting people, and the shooting became a byproduct of the environment and people not necessarily being able to keep people off of that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so it's like the trick of the enemy, because ain't no guns in prison.
No, there's still violence in prison though. So I'm gonna go with you, Nesbitt. I'm going with you with that, Nesbitt. Do you because you are a component of heavy gun control. If gun control were to the point where you like it, do you think that'll stop the violence in the country?
No.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think we talked about this in one of our earlier episodes, is that right now there's some anger that our young adults have, and gun violence is just one avenue for them to use or to display that anger. But if you take the guns away, you still have the anger. The anger is not being addressed. Why are people so angry right now? Why is road rage a thing right now? Why is people walking around with the need to have a gun, just waiting for something to happen? I mean, not you just using it for protection, but using it for intimidation. I mean, there's a lot of things that are going on right now, and and
You talking to me, G?
no, I mean, intimidation has all different forms. I mean, you have people, in the gym trying to get huge. You have people taking karate classes. You have people, mean mugging. Intimidation has a lot of different forms. But and until the issue of why everyone is so angry right now is addressed, you're still going to have violence.
You
may not have
Go ahead, Gary.
You may not have the same number of deaths because when you have if you're fighting with a gun versus you're fighting with your hands, you could take a good beating and get up and go home. But when somebody pulls out the gun, it's a final decision that's being made, and you may not be able to recover from that.
Could I ask a question? Right?
Yeah.
The presumption that people are more angry now than they were comes from what space?
Parental trauma that they weren't able to deal with. So it kind of got pushed onto their children. And now some of the children are trying to deal with it. And then the problem is there's not enough medicine for the children that do need to deal with it. And so now they got anger that they don't know what to do with. And parents don't know what to do with because parents still have anger that they don't know how to do with. And it's an endless cycle of unnecessary violence when probably some people just need someone to talk to.
The last part, you hold on. You completely right about that. It's an issue, and I'm a mental health provider. You know what it is? People are afraid. No, people are afraid.
Fear.
Simply put, there's a belief by a certain demographic in this country that they're being displaced.
Yes. Yes.
And so the baddest dude I know, like my instructor, I done seen some cold-blooded dudes, but I ain't never seen no dude that was just cold-blooded with his hands and his feet like this dude. Mm-hmm. Man, kicked me, man, with a hoga on. It didn't hurt that day. 2 days later, it hurt. Right. And it hurt for about a week. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And the fear is what drives these people. It's not it's the feeling of displacement and that inability. That gentleman, man, he was shot 9 times. And what I learned from him getting shot, when people fear you and they greatly fear you, they will harm you quicker than they will if they don't believe you or deem you a threat or equal. Mm-hmm. So the gentleman that shot him 9 times essentially was like, yo, this dude gonna get me. And he creates that type of fear in people. And he had created so much fear in that guy, he was like, as soon as he seen him, and he just drew down on him. He literally dragged on there. If he wasn't trained like he was trained and hadn't calcified his body, he probably would have lost his leg. He literally blew his leg. Like if you see his leg, he got hit center mass a couple of times. He shouldn't be here. He shouldn't be here. And a lot of that was because that gentleman feared. And so when you start talking about the fear of men now fear what they don't understand. And so essentially, there's always this belief that somebody's going to get me before I get them. Right. Now, when I was in the streets, and not necessarily in the streets, but just like a young male, I believe like that. But when you transition that type of lifestyle, that's why my wife be bugging on me because I don't like going to a lot of places. I don't go a lot of places. You know why? Because you agree people. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to leave it at that. I go to the barber shop, my barbers and my peers, they carry guns. And a guy comes into the barber shop and he has a long gun with him and his pistol. My barber comes in, he got his pistol on him. And I'm sitting here like, man, y'all lunching up in here. Y'all make me feel away. The next time I go to the barber shop, before I go to Toya's birthday party,
you got yours.
And have my pistol. But this youngin comes out, I'm coming out, get my coffee, and he's staring at me. And he like ice grilling me. And I'm looking at him like, okay. And I'm gonna look right back at you. He comes around the car. I guess when he comes around the car, I'm supposed to do like this. No, I look right back at him. I don't have no pistol, but I look right back at him. I know he didn't have one because his pants, I could see his drawers. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because his pants was hanging out. But he did have a gun in the car.
Right.
The kids are emboldened by the belief that they have that weapon. And the fact that they will have that physical confrontation or that aggression is directly correlated with the fact that they can actually have access to that gun.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to essentially stand on what it is they believe or say. And that's the real core problem, fear. Everybody's operating out of fear.
So I'm coming to you with this because I know, you did, you got the circle, you did a lot of people. How do we deal with that? How do we deal with that with our kids to get over that fear, to get over that, I'd rather my kid fight than go out and have a shootout because I know you're gonna live, to fight another day. But how do we get to the core root of dealing with gun violence, especially with our youth? I know you like you
might be the wrong one because I
I forgot you Jersey.
Well,
I'm gonna deal with how we gonna deal with it. I'm gonna deal with how we gonna deal with it.
and I agree with Ron. It's that fear. So how do you get your kids? Everything is so what's the word I'm looking for? Everything is so right at their fingertips. Everything is so it's sensory overload. So it's that fear deals with that sensory overload. They see so much. Our kids see more than we've ever seen because of social media, because they always have a phone in their hand, because they're from the time that, and you see it on social media, you got babies doing TikTok dances. A tablet is put in a child's hand because it keeps them busy, it keeps them occupied, but the monitoring is not being done. You're not seeing what they're watching. These kids, a 4-year-old can program an iPhone faster than his parent can. And that's crazy. And so when they're constantly being bum rushed with so much stuff, and it brings that, I know Zoe has anxiety really bad. And since COVID, it's just since COVID, she doesn't like they don't even like going into into Walmart. They don't like going shopping because they've seen here in Charlotte that you can go into the Walmart and a shootout can happen in a Walmart. And so they see it. And so that's where Ron's saying that fear and getting access to guns is so much easier. So like G said, how do we stop the access so that we don't have our kids killing each other, especially in our neighborhoods? Because the violence, even if you consider the South rural or whatever, it's going up. Way up there right now with New York and Jersey and California and Detroit and Chicago. Yeah. Maybe not as high, but it's high.
It's skyrocketing. Quinn, I'm gonna go with you guys. You're one of my limbs. I know you're a video game player. What do you think the relationship with violent video games have with kids using guns as a deterrent or as a protection? Do you think there's a correlation with that? And if you guys want to answer that, then jump in after Quinn and speak. But I know you may have a different take. But what do you think about that, Quinn?
Almost as close to zero as you can get. So there's a lot of video games, and there's a lot of video games that have nothing to do with guns. There's sports, there's strategies, and those games don't correlate to. They just walked it off. That's crazy. Those video games have nothing to do with. I'm sorry, I had a baseball game over here, and the Braves just walked it off after they blew the lead. But,
well, I'm glad you're able to multitask, sir. Thank you. Go ahead.
So when you have there's kids who they may play the baseball game that just came out. That does not mean they're gonna up and become the next baseball player. There's games where kids be football players. Now, do they influence? Yes. their games may influence something, but then that comes down to parenting. There's a reason these games have ratings on them. And now some of the games may be rated unfairly. There's still a reason the games have ratings on them, and their parents still get it for them. Like,
Okay.
but then again, ratings are kind of fluctuate, because then you'll have a bunch of kids playing Fortnite now. Fortnite has guns in it. Those kids aren't saying, "Oh, I'm gonna go out, build something and shoot someone from the top." But no, they want to go to school and then go back home so they can play Fortnite again. They don't want to go to school, get in a shootout, and then go home and play Fortnite. Now, I'm not saying it's completely zero, but it's as close to zero as you can get.
What are your thoughts on that, G?
Well, I want to go back and then I'll catch up with that. When we were talking about fear, I recall one of the cop shooting, really a lot of the different cop shootings, in which you saw the cop basically was supposed to be there to protect and serve, but the cop was in fear of his life because of the black man, and automatically shot him. And we were talking about fear, and so it's not just the kids that have fear. You even have police officers that have fear. So I wanted to kind of talk about the fear piece. And then one of the things that I did as I was this segment is I looked at the NRA website and their advertisement. Now it's kind of odd. I've never seen any of their advertisement, but they're just like any other business. They have advertisement, and they are really pushing that fear principle, and they're pushing it from the perspective of, hey, as a man and to be a masculine, you need to be able to defend your home. And if you don't have a weapon, how can you defend your home? All of that is just kind of building into that fear piece. So I thought that was very interesting. And if you ever get a chance to kind of check out some of those their billboards or some of their advertisement, you can actually see how it kind of lines up to some other things, but I don't want to get that far into with this segment. Now, going back to the video games, and I think video games get a lot of bad reps. I remember when Grand Theft Auto first came out, and they were talking about people. They tried to say that was the reason why carjacking was up and things of that nature. So I do think there's a segment of people who get lost in reality and can't distinguish between the video games and reality. But I think you also got to look at television. I think you got to look at music. I think all of these imageries kind of push violence. I mean, if you look at historically, you had the cowboys. People wanted to imitate cowboys who had guns and were shooting up places. People wanted to imitate mobsters, say hello to my little friend. You have all of these different imagery, Bonnie and Clyde, all these different things that people always, I'm not going to say idolize, but always these images were pushing that, hey, the good guy had a gun, he defended everybody, blah, blah, blah. And I think that also goes into the psyche.
That's another thing, like that we are told a lot of kids, especially kids of a certain, especially Caucasian children, are told the police are the good guys, and then they see a video of either a police shootout or a police shot somebody, and they're so told, well, he shot him, but he was a bad guy, and the police are the good guys, and they won't give them the backstory of, well, no, that police guy wasn't a good guy. That guy he shot was unarmed. The guy he shot the guy he shot didn't do anything wrong. But they'll spin it and say, nah, he was a good guy. So, man, look for people who are trying to bang the hammer on guns. Look inward rather than trying to blame video games.
I'm gonna go with you with this question. Then we'll do a round table and wrap it up. But great discussion, guys. We kind of stay on it.
I'm gonna say this.
But let me ask you a question. Let me ask you the question. That you go ahead. Then I'll come back to you. Go ahead.
When that gentleman went to Buffalo and he shot those people in that store, he shot it as a single shooter, and it was almost as if it was a video game simulation.
Right.
He had a
That was also
he had a GoPro on his forehead.
he live
Right?
streamed the Twitch, but that was
Say it
also
again.
100% hate. That was 100% hate. If you, I chose not to watch it, but you saw a clip. I saw one clip that he looked at a white woman and said, "Oh, I'm sorry," and kept pushing. That was 100% race based.
It was racist, and it was functionally what it was. But if you identify the fact that a lot of what he stimulated was directly correlated with the video game,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
there was a correlation.
There's connection there somewhere.
And then I see a lot of these kids that I deal with, especially the young males. There's a heightened level of aggression when they play those video games because it's a simulation of a lot of the things that they want to see and want to potentially do. And even I ain't gonna sit here. I played Grand Theft Auto Vice City. I became addicted to that game. I used to sit there and lunch out. And I said, man, dang, you know what? I can see how this corrupts your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Like people don't even really realize it's like I seen it. And I can tell you for me, and I caught it at an early age for me in terms of like how I was dealing with certain aspects of things. When I was younger, I used to always ask myself, how did my uncle go to prison and consistently stay in prison like that and be a jailbird, so to speak? And what effectively happened to me and what struck me, I started to get in trouble. And when I started to get in trouble, I didn't necessarily care about whatever the consequence was that my mother gave me because you couldn't make me do nothing I didn't want to do. What you gonna do to me?
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I made the determination that I wanted to change the behavior that corrective measures came in place. But I seen how you can become institutionalized by being in the house. That's how I ended up really getting bigger. Because I started eating bread and toast. I used to always be outside, like toast with butter and all types of dumb stuff. But it was because I was in the house bored, couldn't watch TV, couldn't do nothing but listen to the radio. So you know what I do? Sit there and listen to the radio. But I had institutionalized myself.
How do they do? You have to ask yourself these questions too. So when we do drone strikes now, when you don't even have to leave a room and you can blow up a whole city.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think so.
These are young kids. And why? Because they have that hand-eye coordination because they've been doing what? Playing these video games most of their life. And yeah, we play video games. We had ColecoVision and Intellivision and I remember because my favorite game was B-52 Bomber. And with Intellivision, you only had that one little stick with the little thing you moved around your hand. So you just using your one hand. And I got good at that thing because, them bombs was falling and pitfall, things like that. Like it got your hand-eye coordination to a point. And now you have, of course, there's a lot more violent games, but like you say, it's up to the parents to say, okay, you gotta stop. I have a 10-year-old that loves playing Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat today is not like the Mortal Kombat. Now, don't get me wrong, I like playing with her, but it's not. It is very graphic. It is graphic. It's more graphic than it was when we were playing it. But she's not allowed to play it all the time. I already believe she's a serial killer. So I don't want her to be subjected to it all the time. We have to know when to say, my kids they're on spring break. They haven't picked up the Xbox joystick yet.
You're right.
They're not.
What's funny too? My wife laughs at me when I see violence, right? Like certain levels of violence. I start laughing because it'd be funny. It'd be funny to me. Like, that's why I like Game of Thrones, because they kill people in the most interesting ways. Or like, if you look at The Wire, some of the ways that people get killed, you'd be like, yeah. And so if you've been raised around a culture of violence, man, you become numb to it. And I think Americans are numb to it.
Yeah, I'm going to. Do you think it should be a homegrown terrorist type of punishment or crime for mass shooting? Should they be classified as homegrown terrorist acts? Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm trying to terrorist. Thank you.
Terrorist.
Terrorist. Thank you. Come on. Thank you.
Know what he said. He said what he
I
said.
know. I know. But G, do
You
you
on
think
mute,
this?
G.
Huh?
So I'm trying to collect my thoughts about the question. You said, do I think that mass shooters should be classified as terrorists?
Yeah. Homegrown terrorists.
That's an interesting question. I mean, I guess I would say yes. Yes, I would say yes, because I do think, without fully knowing the penalty and the laws and if they are processed differently, but yes, based off of their actions, I do think they should be sentenced as a terrorist.
Any other thoughts on the panel with that same question?
I mean, honestly,
Yes, with an asterisk. With an asterisk, because you never know what could happen if a bunch of people go into someone's house and he's self-defenses and it just happens to be 5 people. Unfortunately, that's labeled a mass shooting. But that's why I say there's an asterisk. If it's literally I'm in my house and 5 people trying to rob my house with guns, and if you ramble your way out of that situation, okay, you got it. But if that's the outlier, yeah, you can label that, Matt. You can label that mass terrorism.
Okay. All right, guys. Go ahead, Gary.
I think I would ask that question a little bit differently, and not to extend the time, but just to kind of leave a question on our listeners' mind. But,
Well, so that's the last question of the night. Then you got it. There. What's the last question of the night? And we'll go around and give a little answer to it. But what's the last question of the night, sir?
Do you think there should be more effort in trying to identify threats and be a little bit more proactive versus reactive when it comes to threats?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I think the federal government is doing as much as they possibly can to deal with that, but it's an issue more than anything else.
I disagree.
I don't think the schools don't know. I don't think the schools
in terms of monitoring that, because there are a number of mass shootings that are supposed to take place that don't. Some of the lone wolf stuff you can't necessarily, like, you can't account for some of the things like that particular mass shooter. It was kind of hard. The one in Tennessee where she went and shot the school up. A lot of times people think those threats are veiled, but there are a lot of situations where the FBI are listening, big brothers listening, and they catch some of these situations that happen.
But I'm talking about. But I'm referring about it's sometime where there's like the school shooting and where the teacher got shot in Virginia. The child brought the bullet 2 weeks before school.
That was negligence.
I mean, so I think a lot of times
that was negligence. That was ignorance.
Right, that's what I'm saying. But as a teacher in the profession, I mean, when you say when I look at that, I'm not. I think you took it from the FBI standpoint. I'm taking it from even with school shooting from a teacher's standpoint. You done seen this kid have signs of issues, and you didn't nip it in the bud.
I'll take it from a different standpoint. I just looked it up. There's been over 200 mass shootings, over 200 killed in mass shootings this year, which it says a decade high. Well, this is from Forbes. So, yeah, 200 killed in mass shootings was a decade high. Whatever they're doing, it ain't working.
It ain't. That's not law enforcement's fault. So I'm gonna tell you, like when they shut down that shooter in Tennessee, they didn't do what the gentleman did in Texas. Them dudes in Texas had all that goddamn armor, act like, dude, you get paid to get shot at.
Yeah, somebody needs to be fired in Texas.
That's what your job is, dog. You signed up for that, Slim. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, you signed up for that, champ. So I don't want to hear that. But the issue that I'm saying about the shootings, again, it's addressing it's like, y'all not understand. Please help me explain it like I feel it. You have Fox News out here that stokes the fears and the worst intuition of people. You got Newsmax. You got people like Alex Jones, people like Tucker Carlson, people like Maria Bartoloma know they were lying.
That
Know that they were lying.
that's not
Yet
getting a
still facilitated that to people who were ignorant. And I'll never forget when me and my wife moved into this house, we went to vote the first time in the district, and we still had a good portion of Caucasians around us. And this man, he was a good man. Man, that dude ain't had a tooth in his mouth. He was thinking, I'm gonna go vote for George Bush. Bless his heart, he thought George Bush had his interests at heart. You know who he's taking care of. Right. You're not getting none of the tax breaks and any of what is happening. So essentially what you're saying is people being sold a bill of goods and they're buying it.
It's
America's for sale.
It's like Dave Chappelle said, he going to vote. It's not for you. I'm the one being protected. I'm in that 1%. That part.
I had that conversation with that dude, man, almost 10, 15 years ago. And I sat there and I looked at it and I said, these dudes do not see America's for sale. That's why China is daggone gearing up right now. America is for sale. So when you're for sale, you essentially don't have a ground or leg to stand on because you sold your people. You essentially, bro, y'all don't understand. Hear what I'm saying. America is for sale.
Mm-hmm.
People don't know.
They're trying to do. I understand that we got to work on that, but they're find some solution based to kind of tear this thing down. Toya, what is some positive solution based we can do to kind of curse on this gun violence? We're gonna Tory, Gary, Ron, and we're going to
So what Ron was saying too, like, Ron, y'all gotta vote. You gotta vote these. You have to vote your state and your city. Those are the important elections. Y'all, if people want to just vote for president and things like that, no. Where you live is where it happens. Is where law works. And they have this new, and I'm gonna have to show it to y'all. This new School of Rock. I'm just a bill. I'm gonna send it to y'all. It's crazy. It's not the same. It's not our I'm just a bill living on Capitol Hill. It really breaks things down. And y'all have to realize that to get certain laws passed, to get things really done, it's on the state and the city level. And so that we can get some control.
Gary?
To add to what Toya was saying is that I think we need to address the fear problem and understand why everyone is so fearful of one another. And once we get that understanding, I think we can start addressing the problem. But I think until we can understand why everyone is so fearful, it's going to be an endless circle.
RJ.
Essentially, to address Gary's statement, American business model is divide and conquer. So if I can keep you and I looking at each other sideways and not trusting each other, we can never unify against the people who are truly affecting all of our well-being.
Okay. Cute.
That's that simple.
Hey, ask that question one more time.
What are some of the ways that you feel that we can curb the gun violence? Positive way we can stop the gun violence.
Make it harder to get guns. Hike up the prices. I know people are scared to just go door to door and take guns away, but those people who won't give their gun away are being hypocritical because they're supposed to believe they're supposed to be behind the government no matter what until it's about their Second Amendment, which I kind of made aside throwaway previously saying that needs to be changed anyway because the Constitution is so far outdated and rules being made to undermine that in the first place. Make guns harder to get. And that's not going to stop gun violence, but force someone to make a man-made gun, you'll find them quicker than being able to go to your local Walmart and get an AR-15, which I just looked at the size of an AR-15. This is a Call of Duty gun. Nobody should be able to just go to the store and buy this. And buy this and buy ammo for it. This is an insane gun just to be sold at your local gun store.
Like Ron said, the United States is for sale and everything is so transactional. Until we stop making our life and our relationship transactional and start living in love and peace and grace, we're gonna always have this problem. But we're gonna continue to work hard for it, guys. We're gonna continue to work hard for you. Hey, great show. Thanks for all your input. Hey guys, anybody please visit Over the Top Podcast Facebook page. As we still got some things everything related to the show. And like always, hey, love on each other, guys, and make your next move be the game changer. Peace.